guys, welcome back to another session of some sword combat. Traditional Chinese weapon club, Stonegate classes, kind of a whole bunch of people that could be looking at this. But I got a specific question from someone asked about sword with rollback energy. Like, how do you use rollback energy with the sword? And specifically about footwork using rollback energy with the sword. So I'm going to show you a couple things. Some basic techniques, some hand techniques, some foot techniques. We're going to talk a little bit about rollback energy today. So there's kind of two directions you can go with rollback. And you take a little bit of a step back there just so we've got a little bit of space to play with. There's two different directions you can go with rollback energy. I can either do a retreating rollback where I'm going to yield the energy in and I'm going to pull that, and I'm going to use my feet to draw my opponent in and open them up. Or I can do an advancing rollback energy where I'm going to move into my opponent and use that rollback to close ground. Okay? So we're going to start out with that retreating rollback. And there's a couple ways that that can happen. Now, obviously, I can just yield and roll back. If Tom throws a lateral cut, I can just roll back, yield, and open up space. But that's not necessarily going to buy me any advantage as far as swordplay goes or positioning myself in order to actually strike back at my opponent. What I'm doing there is I'm losing ground. So what we're going to play with now is a little bit of what's called the great circle and the yielding rollback. So if you're not familiar with the greater circle, that's going to be suspended wrist, tip moving. It's typically seen in straight sword more than broadsword, which is why I'm using a straight sword for this demonstration. But you can really do it with any weapon. So I'm going to have Tom do, of course now this is just demonstration, I'm going to have Tom actually thrust. So Tom's going to come forward with a thrust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage that blade, and then I'm going to begin to do my great circle. And you can see how that displaces or flicks Tom's blade out of the way. But what I'm going to do as I do that is in order to draw Tom a little bit more to the attack, take one more step back, I think, that way we don't lose the frame this way. As Tom comes in with that thrust, what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage his blade, and then I'm going to use my footwork to draw in, both to connect to his blade and pull him forward, so I can close that ground and make that strike. So I'm going to use that yielding, retreating energy to bring Tom in, which if we do a little bit more up to speed. Now, a couple things before we go up to speed, a couple things to be careful of. And the reason it's important to sync up the footwork with this. If Tom makes this thrust and I start with the footwork, I'm too far out to really engage his blade and I'm just going to drift off. Obviously, if I wait too long and do this, then Tom's going to come through and I'm just going to get struck. What I need to do is really sync up my footwork with my blade work, where as he comes in, I'm going to connect and roll back, and you can see what happens there. I'm able to control that distance, displace his blade, and decide at what point I want to take that roll back and turn that then into a push or a press and bring either a cut through or drive that tip in. Okay? So Tom's going to come at not quite full speed, but a little bit quicker so you can see that. Well, hold on. I'm talking, we're going. That was sloppy. So once I'm done talking, we're going to do this. And what I want you to watch for is the engagement of the feet with the hand, how as I make connection, that's when I start to move back. Just like with the hands form, it's not until I feel a connection. I want to make that extension, that connection through the blade. I want to have that conversation of space and then start to seed. So as Tom comes in, I connect and come in. And you can see how I have that moment of yielding as he comes in. And what that does is, you see I opened up enough that he drifts out just outside my arm. And you can see where that leaves us, where I've displaced his energy out. There's that rollback, that yielding energy that's put him to the outside. And now I'm close to the inside, so I can throw in a cut. I can turn in and thrust or do whatever. Of course, this can work both ways. He can come in this way, and I can thrust here. Same deal. I'm just making that circle and rolling him out. Okay? So that's going to be the retreating rollback and the use of footwork. Is as I connect, I'm going to draw in and then return with that press, that push energy to drive the blade back in once I've cleared. But that timing of the footwork is critical, so I don't end up too far and just drift off his blade and lose the ability to displace him, and I don't end up too close and just get stabbed. Now, for the advancing rollback, essentially what we're going to be looking at is more of a lateral displacement. So as Tom comes in, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move forward. I'm going to have you throw a cut this time. Well, we could do it with a thrust, but we'll use a cut for this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move lateral to Tom. So as he comes in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into that defensive position, but to create that rollback, rather than focusing so much on trying to draw his blade, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect and then soften, yield, and displace myself laterally. So you can see I'm breaking the line. So Tom and I were on this line. I've now moved off this direction, more like a fair lady plays the shuttle from the hands form, because what that's going to do is bring me outside his blade that then allows me to make that cut from the outside. Now, this is the type of play you might see more with a broadsword, and really, depending on where you go after this, is really going to be defined more by the sword style you practice. For instance, as he comes in and I make that displacement out, if I'm doing broadsword, I'm probably going to bring that other hand in, engage, push, and cut. If I'm playing more straight sword, which is typically fought more with the tip, I'm going to open the same way and make that lateral displacement. But from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the outside and make more of a tip cut through the wrist, to the face, to the throat, whatever, but I'm going to open that distance back up, because with a straight sword I don't necessarily want to be so close, because straight sword is fought at a greater distance than broadsword. But what's important is, and I can do it to the other side, so Tom cuts here, again, I'm just going to yield in. So you can see what I'm doing is I have that fixed point. As he cuts in, again, I make that initial connection, so I reach out, boom, connect. That good solid guard position we've practiced, wrist is activated, I'm spiraling into the motion to make the initial connection, but then I'm softening and I'm yielding, and I'm moving around that contact to bring myself to the inside. So that's going to be the rollback with a retreat and a rollback with an advance. So with the retreat, the goal is to make sure that you time the footwork, make the thrust for the retreat. So the goal is to time that footwork so that you trap the blade, you create just enough space but not too much space, and then go ahead and throw the cut. With the advancing, I want to connect and yield around that. Okay? So that's going to be the advancing and the retreating rollback with the footwork. If you have any questions, please let us know. We would love to see them in the comments below, whether we're on Facebook or YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to come out and practice with us, we're in Austin, Texas. We'd love to see more people. We bang swords. Come and play with us. You know, it's a conversation. We don't know what you have to say till you put a sword in your hand and cross it with ours. So, we'll catch you guys next time.